Welcome back to the Imaginary Gallery. It's TJ, your host. Tonight's discussion, some observations I've made while watching the mainstream media involving political figures. Yes, see, when you've been around lots of cluster B creatures, whether that be psychopath, sociopath, narcissist, or a combination of all of them, you eventually learn to pick up on specific things. First off, most of us whose lives have not been touched by a cluster B creature believe in the good in everyone. So if someone is nice to you and you like it, then you feel, well, that person's good until they show me otherwise. It's basically you trust everybody until they give you a reason not to trust them. That is the type of mentality that these creatures thrive on, and this is taken advantage of in a lot of cases. I'll begin with an older example, but a good example. There used to be a president in this country named Bill Clinton. There was a scandal involving an intern in a blue dress and a squirting fluid liquid stain on that dress. The very first statement was, "I did not have sexual relations with that woman." And he again is the president, officially speaking. Of course, later DNA tests and whatever else indicated that he actually did. And you saw him give an apology. Now, if I was not experienced with cluster B creatures, I might have watched that apology and thought, oh, well, that makes sense. He's a good guy. However, from the experience I've had, what I saw was equivalent to the lady who discovers her husband's been cheating for the last 8 months, despite the fact he's told her every day how he doesn't look at any other women, and then she catches him, and his response is, just like Clinton's, "I've made a mistake." I don't remember what he said, but he was basically trying to undo the lie because he already said he didn't do it, and then now he's having to say he did, just like the cluster B creature who is eventually caught, which, if it's not in a public arena, more than likely it's going to be, "How dare you uncover the truth for this?" And then they'll want to punish you. But when you're the president, it's probably a little bit different. The point was, his first communication was that, "This is not true, I did not do this." Yet we know now that he did, and he knew that he did, and then we're supposed to trust this creature to run our country, even though he's just a puppet? The next one we would look at would be his wife. I've even seen some video montages that people ask her, for example, "So, are you for queer marriage?" And her answer is no, even though she's a lesbian, but that's a different story. And then what happens a few years later? "Yes, I do support that." And you have to wonder, is she being a cluster B who's saying the right thing at the time to get the right results? Because that's what they do, and that's what it appears she's done. Also with those emails, acting retarded, like she didn't know that, oh, I shouldn't use this server? Oh, should I scrub it like with a cloth? And all the other crap she said, when the fact is, we know that she broke the law. And she's not retarded. Well, maybe she is, but we don't think she's retarded. So she would know that telling her, whoever, Uma Abedin, to remove the part that says confidential would mean that she's no longer transmitting confidential material elsewhere on a different server. Stupid. And I've seen the court cases, if they're real, of course, we never know, telling the judge that I did not have any classified information submitted wherever. Of course, she's proven wrong by the discovery of the court, which is, we've got these stacks this high of whatever. Do you see her break down and say, "Oh, no, all right, yes, I made that up"? No. Just like the cluster B creature. When you prove them wrong and say, "Look, here's the proof and the evidence," you're still going to claim that same story? They will not break down and say, "Oh, okay, yes." No, it'll be, "Well, so what? I did that because of..." Insert retarded excuse here. Or they'll say, "Well, so what? What about the time you did?" And fill in the blank, which means they do not take accountability, which is what I'm seeing in these political figures. They do evils, they're caught doing evils, but do they ever repent Do they ever break down and say, oh, I've made a horrible mistake? No. Yes, they're in politics, but the idea is to observe Cluster B in action. The next part I've noticed with the same lady was there were some WikiLeaks emails of John Podesta that were distributed everywhere, and some foolish newscaster was saying, it's illegal for you to look at these emails, but I will read them and tell you what they mean. Wrong. Another Cluster B behavior. If you were to take the time to look through these emails, you would notice many very specific things that were kind of fishy. But if you read them literally, they make absolutely no sense. But if you actually look at them along with the FBI code of what these specific words really mean to a specific group of people who are involved in pedophilia, then it makes a lot of sense. However, for some reason, the powers that be that control the mainstream media would have you believe that anything related to this claim is complete fabrication and fake. We're talking about the child trafficking that's been going on for decades. Nothing new, but it's always been kept hidden. Problem is today, the high-ranking people in this world are involved. So if they're the judges and you're bringing somebody to court to convict them for something the judge is involved in, well, how are they all going to punish themselves? They ain't, which means they indulge in the narcissistic styled smear campaign. So when someone comes forward and says, hey, that judge raped my 12-year-old kid, the response will be, that person is lying and fake news, get rid of them. And they'll be gotten rid of. But I watched an interview with Hillary Clinton at the Politics and Prose bookstore, where it was clearly scripted, where the subject was brought up about the things that were determined from the Podesta emails. And what did she do? Like the typical Cluster B, she glossed over it by dismissing every single part of it based on a few generalized excuses, basically. Because the fact is, there's a lot of crap in there that she didn't want the regular people to see. So she figured she could just gloss it over and say, oh, blah, 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 and then there's nothing interesting in there to discourage anybody from looking for themselves. Because I could see in an alternate universe, if the regular people were shown what's there, there'd be an outrage against this witch. But because the powers of the media are on her side, it's passed off as phony fake, which is just like your Cluster B, who's been having an affair behind your back for the last year, and someone told you about it, and you said to them, you've been having an affair for the last year, and you're told, oh, whoever told you that is lying. Well, that's the same feeling I got when I saw her interview, glossing over the whole thing, saying, oh, that's all fake. Plus, if anything, anybody who's looked at those emails and they've read the code words that mean nothing literally, but if you substitute something else for the code, mean quite a lot. It's very strange how in these interviews none of that's discussed. Even with the Podesta man himself, they seem to have a new trend of claiming that anything against their agenda, oh, that's been debunked. But they never show where it was debunked or who debunked it. Because nobody did. It's fake. Because anybody who took the time to read these emails would at least have a few questions. Really, well, what did this mean? What did that mean? And none of that was discussed. Same thing goes with the owner of that Comet Ping Pong place. Stupid fake Megyn Kelly, who's probably OJ's wife in disguise, was glossing over all the obvious questions that those of us who looked at the emails have, and instead painted the poor guy as a victim. Psychopathic cover-ups. What started all this scandal, though, was the word pizza, which translates to child pornography, and it was totally sickening to watch that Hillary lady in her staged scripted interview saying things such as, oh, those emails, oh, they talked about food. Well, Podesta's a chef. He likes to cook. Ooh, it must be a nefarious spaghetti recipe or something crappy like that, she said. Which, again, is totally avoiding any of the questions anybody would have had they read them, which served further to make the lazy viewers think, oh, I don't have to look into that. She just told me it's fake. It ain't fake. It's sick and it's been going on forever. But when you've had the type of experience I've had with these creatures and you see them operating on public levels, such as governmental levels, it's quite sickening. And of course, it's difficult to talk to others about it because they are brainwashed by whatever the words are the person's saying. Even if they've been caught lying on video and on news, they still are devoted to them. The point is, I think, to be in politics, you pretty much have to be corrupt. They need to be able to get something on you to get you to do what they want, which again is a very psychopathic principle. I understand they also tempt adults to mess around with kids illegally in a place where filming's being done. So then later, when someone wants to control that person and says, hey, you're going to do this, they might say, oh no, I'm not. They'll be able to say, well, really, we've got this video showing you with a 2-year-old tadpole licking its whatever, and all of a sudden its tune will change. All of it is psychopathic and disgusting.
I am the Narcopath. Remember me? I'm here to give you a few more confessions.
Let me go ahead and clarify something for you. I'm an equal opportunity narcopath, which means if I see a gullible chick, she happens to be a lesbo, I'm up in her panties. Simple as that. If I see a guy and he likes my teeth, I let him have them, and I pursue him if I think there's something I can get out of it. I'm equal opportunity. I don't care if it's a boy or a girl or an armadillo. I'll take it. If it's got money, if it's got stuff I need, if it's got a car I could take and steal, I'm gonna date him. I'm glad we cleared that up for you.
I know, too, that after I discarded you, things went through your head as they always do to all my targets.
You wondered why you felt such a connection with me, and why you feel so devastated. Let me start off with the beginning. Remember the first date we had? I noticed you were a little more conservative, so although you let me kiss you, you had said specifically that you do not penetrate Virginia on a first date. And what did I do? I switched gears and I said, oh, really? I don't let people enter my Virginia on the first date. Oh, the truth is, I was entered 6 times the night before by 6 first dates, but you did not need to know any of that because I was working on you. It worked. We kissed goodnight, and of course I did my own thing until you called again, and then we finally did it. That made you think I shared a value system similar to yours, even though it was nothing of the sort. So if I told you other stories about my past, they would always incorporate that, well, we met one night and kissed, and then it was a few more dates until we made love, because I wanted to remain consistent. And it worked for a while now, didn't it? You thought you found your soulmate. You have no idea how many people's soulmates I am, of all different kinds. Let me remind you that I am the Narcopath.